Welcome to the Online Natural Health Expo. My name is Andy. My wife Adrienne and I own and operate Holistic Made Easy. Today we are joined on this session by the one, the only, Jason Tebeau. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to be able to speak with you, and I just appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Hey, thank you. Long time no talk. I think we were just doing this last week, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
does everybody know this is, we should probably tell everybody this is a redo.
Yes. We had to get
wanted
the
to
camera.
Make sure that we gave everybody the best information. So we decided to redo it.
That's right. We got to get the camera. We got to get the microphones, everything set. So thank you so much again, Jason. And today we're going to be talking about three very specific modalities that you think are super important. And I say super because you call it the Superhuman Protocol. And so before we do that, I've asked almost all of my people that I've been hosting with on the expo here, what would you say is something interesting about you and a superhero power that you would love to have?
Something interesting about me. I love to fix things. So people in my old life, one of them called me the fixer of all things. So you name it, if it breaks, I can repair it. If it's a brand new car, forget it. No, not touching it. But pretty much anything else I can tear apart, put back together. I've been doing that since I was a kid. My parents gave me Tinker Toy, what do you call those? Lincoln Logs and all those erector sets. And I couldn't get enough of that stuff.
Yes.
Okay. So, and I would take my existing toys, take them apart and build different toys out of them because I didn't like what they were to begin with. Right. So
perfect. Sounds
contraptions.
Just like me.
Yeah. It was cool stuff. Superpower, you know, there's a lot of things I would love to be able to do, but one of them, and I would just keep it simple, is to reverse end stage conditions in people that I touch, that I talk to, that I come in contact with. I've seen too much of it, and I've lost family members in the past. This is what brought me on this journey. It's exactly what brought me on this journey. So yeah, to be able to stop that dead in its tracks and impart any wisdom and information that I can on them so that they can take care of themselves, give them the guidance to go find the right nutrition, the right books, the right people. As I said to you earlier, I'm kind of a conductor of sorts. I don't claim to be any guru by any stretch of the imagination, but I spend all my time reading and watching everything I can get my eyes and my ears on. And I feel like at that point, I can give somebody really, really great guidance and say, hey, check out this video, check out that book, et cetera, et cetera. So those would be my most important superpowers, just guidance and knowledge.
I love it. It goes right in line with Holistic Made Easy too, right? I mean, our whole purpose is to bring a holistic lifestyle and make it easy and simple for people to be able to live out. So that's perfect. So let's talk a little bit about the Superhuman Protocol. Jason runs and operates DaVinciMedicalUSA.com. So if you're interested, you can always go there and check out more of his stuff. But we're going to be talking about three specific things today. And so, Jason, let's jump into that. I know that you are a lifelong learner. You kind of already delved into that, and so am I. I just love knowing what's the newest, greatest, latest thing out there that we have been able to find out through science that tells us, hey, we need to be able to do this, and we need to be able to do it in a way that God intended, the way that nature intended. This is the way that our bodies operate the best and are most useful.
Yeah. So there's a lot of technology out there and a lot of things that people have never heard of. And you start looking at this and think, wow, did our creator really blow it? And say, oh, those humans, they'll come up with some buried deep in the Himalayas, or they'll find something in the ocean that's going to reverse end stage conditions. But they're going to find it because we didn't create a perfect universe. Well, no, they did create a perfect universe. We just ruined it.
Awesome.
Okay, and it's literally right under our nose. I mean, right, what's right here?
Literally,
there's oxygen. Yeah. There's a magnetic field, and there's light. Okay, and the light you can't see right now might be near infrared or other wavelengths that you can't see. But these are the three forces, some of the three forces, many of them, that created life and that currently sustain life. For example, without oxygen, magnetism, and light, we're gone. unless you're a mushroom, you could survive without the light, but you're not a fungus, although there's a tremendous amount of fungus in you that you don't even realize in it. Some of it's good. So what we're looking at is, what are the three things that we disconnected from?
Mm.
And I'm going to go through this analogy in when I share the screen, but what did we disconnect from and what declined? So where are the common denominators? Let's get nutrition out of the picture for a second. Okay. So if we stop breathing for 5 minutes, we pass out, we're brain dead in less than 10. If we blocked ourselves from magnetic fields, you'd go into defib. That was a study done with Dr. Jane Hunt at NASA. So the magnetic field actually helps charge the body, keeps us alkaline, keeps those cells charged so that they separate, so each cell can get oxygen. So without magnetism, there's no oxygen uptake, okay? And without light, of course, we lack vitamin D and many other things. We go into daylight deprivation, depression, and all sorts of other things. And we're not promoting daylight in terms of UVB, UVA. We're talking about near infrared when we get deeper into this.
Right. Yep.
So we look at what would harm us first if deprived, right? So oxygen and a magnetic field, both of those in 10 minutes, you're done if you can't get correct and adequate exposure to them. But as an earthling, you get the benefit of it. You walk around Earth, you're exposed to oxygen and magnetism, and you get light. Problem is Earth's, in fact, we could probably start sharing the screen now if this would be a good time.
Let's go ahead and do that. Yep.
Let me share screen. Okay, let me know if you can see that.
Got it. Awesome.
Good. So, millions of years ago, if we look at where Earth was, we had a magnetic field and it dropped 80%. And that's what we're supposed to absorb. So we're supposed to walk around barefoot. That kept us alkaline. It's also called grounding or earthing. Great video on YouTube called, I believe it's called Earthing, the groundbreaking research of walking barefoot. And this has got studies that are published in quite a few different journals, the benefits of grounding and earthing, but it's not real convenient. Walking around barefoot all day isn't practical. Most people don't have time to do that. So there's technology out there that lets you do that. We'll get into that. So Earth's actual magnetic field has dropped 80% in the last 4,000 years. That means it went from 2.5 Gauss down to half. A refrigerator magnet is about 20 Gauss, if we can put that into perspective, where you hang your picture on the refrigerator. So that's dropped. We're wearing shoes, driving cars, we're living in buildings. We're completely disconnected from that which helped charge us, our biocharger. Mm-hmm. For example, when we lose our cell phone charge, what do? We put it on its induction charger, or we plug it in and we charge the battery. Battery fires back up again. When we get discharged, okay, we actually become acidic. And you can actually get discharged very easily. You can just ride a motorcycle or go in a convertible car or get into a speedboat and go real fast. The air and the resistance that you create when you're going in nature like that and you're going fast, that those charges actually deplete you. You will become acidic. You can actually go measure that.
Interesting.
And so people always wondered, wow, right after I got off that speedboat or did that ride, I feel exhausted. Yeah, you just dropped your pH. You just dropped your voltage. But go walk around barefoot for about 30 minutes, boom, recharged.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so people might be saying, well, what does that all mean? That all that means that each of your cells, charge goes back up and the cells can separate. We'll show that in a little bit. And now all those cells can get their oxygen and nutrients again. Okay. Whereas before, when you become discharged or acidic, the cells clump. They stick to each other. It's like a small group of raisins right out of a box. Those raisins are clumping. If I throw breadcrumbs at them, only the raisins on the outside get fed, but the raisins inside are dying, okay, because they're blocked. But if I put every raisin on the table by itself, separate them, throw breadcrumbs at them, every cell gets fed, right?
Gotcha. Yep.
That's alkalizing, that's grounding, that's earthing, that's walking. So there's technologies that will allow you to actually do that in 8 minutes time, so you don't have to walk around at all. Okay. So let's look at the next problem. So our oxygen levels, we are basically looking at oxygen levels dropping, they have, let me scroll down here. As the oxygen levels drop, and again, our magnetic field drops, we have fewer oxygen cells or fewer molecules of oxygen transporting into the cell. So we have to understand that oxygen levels have dropped, but we've adapted to that. So the point here isn't that we're only breathing 21% oxygen. The point is that we're not walking around barefoot enough to get those cells to charge so that we can get oxygen to every single cell. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't help that we're breathing hydrocarbon laden oxygen from industry, all the pollution. Okay. Yep. So right. that adds to it. Yep. And keep in mind, cancer thrives as soon as the pH drops. And when the oxygen levels are low, that's cancer's fertile field. That's what it loves. Sure. Okay, cancer's anaerobic.
You talked about even the atmosphere, you know, I mean, it's factories and cars and all these other things that we're breathing in, but I would even venture to say the stuff inside the home is just as dangerous, right? We've got all these epoxies and carpets and different paints and things that formaldehyde and all these things that are, you know, off-gassing from our furniture, you know, and so even there we're you know, not getting the oxygen levels we need.
Oh yeah, I mean we're trying to create our own world when the world was already created for us, and so all these synthetics that are with the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds, and the outgassing, and all these things that they all look so beautiful and they make our life different and exciting, but a lot of this stuff is highly toxic and caustic, and we don't even realize what it's doing to us. I mean, we could talk about headphones and EMFs. I mean, I've got my 5G device right here. This is protecting me. I'm protected from 5G cellular Wi-Fi right now. Anything within 8 feet of this. Thanks to you, I've got this.
Yeah, and we've got the creator of that, Hagen Thiers, is actually on our summit here in the expo as well. So if anybody's interested in seeing that product, you can go hear Hagen.
Yeah, you're going to definitely want to learn about that. So back to oxygen. Everybody that's sick, if you look at their oxygen, if you measure their fingertip and look at the pulse oximeter, they're going to measure 98, 99. That's not a big deal. It's the saturation, it's the dissolved oxygen into tissues, hypoxic tissues, distal hypoxic tissues that we're having problems with. Right. We're having problems with absolutely inflamed microvessels, capillaries, arterioles, venules. And you know, you can breathe all the oxygen you want and do deep breaths. You aren't going to get to these areas that, for all intents and purposes, have a tourniquet on it. They are choking, they're starving of oxygen, they're completely inflamed, and their variability to receive oxygenated blood has decreased. So the only way to force oxygen there is one of the technologies that we actually have. So we'll get into that. Light, I'll make that real quick. You know, we're wearing clothes. Look at us right now. We're completely clothed. We're in a building. We're blocking ourselves from all of these important wavelengths, and there's a lot of them. It's not just the wavelengths that get absorbed on the skin and make vitamin D, which is made on the skin, and then it gets reabsorbed into the body. And we can't make that vitamin D. So that's important. And we don't have a technology for that. That's actually not necessary because we have really great supplements to get there. And we can walk out in nature and get that sunshine, which we should be doing. We should be walking around butt naked, barefoot, and getting as much sun as we can without getting sunburned. But that's not reality. So we can make it a reality in 38 minutes. I can give you all of that magnitude order, 14-hour residual effects in a 38-minute session. Some of the technology has a durable effect of 6 months to a year. We'll get into that. So
and when you say 38 minutes, you're talking about all three modalities, right? Not just the light.
Right. All three modalities would take no more than 38 minutes in one day. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Man, some people spend more time on that than cleaning their car and making their hair look good. Okay.
Right. So, yeah.
and whatever's important to you, you'll do. And if this is important to you, you'll start to do it, and then you'll see the results, and then you'll get addicted. Right. So in summation on these three problems, oh, by the way, there's one interesting thing here. I want to highlight this. Let's highlight that. Why don't you read that for me?
Yeah, it says 1 molecule of alcohol kills 3 molecules of oxygen.
Wow. That's profound. I remember I said that at dinner one night. We had some guests and someone was asking me, and when they talk to me about health at dinner with friends and family, I give them the look like, not now. No, let's not do this here. Because I want my guests to, come back.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of them know what I do. And so some of them are like, no, I want to hear. And I go, no. And then my wife looks at me, no, you really don't right now, because it'll never end. And so I just go, do you guys want to hear? I just say, well, if you want to keep as much oxygen in the body and boost the immune system, you want to stay away from alcohol, because look what you just read.
Yeah.
There's a reason
crazy.
After you're done drinking that Friday night, you have a hangover. You're oxygen deprived. And so with our technology, I hate to say it, but you can do a 15-minute session and your hangover is gone.
Yeah, we don't condone this, but it is a good cure.
No. And EMTs that drive the ambulance, they know this. I mean, they'll just go back and inhale 100% medical grade after a hangover. And again, I am not saying that this is a treatment, a prevention, or a cure, but that is what's happening. You're oxygen deprived. Okay.
Yes.
So, and the brain is one of the largest hogs. And you just hold your breath. You start to feel drunk.
Yeah.
I make my case.
Yeah.
So if we look at how we evolved as human beings, we're born in a hospital, strangely enough, and then we're transported to a building and sheltered from light, and we're probably breathing toxic air, and we're probably getting exposure to power lines, and we're given this food. Just because it's on the shelf doesn't mean it's good for your health mentality. Okay, that's happening. I say that to people all the time. Just because it's on the shelf doesn't mean it's good for your health. Truly. 90% of that grocery store needs to be wiped out. The stuff on the far right or far left, wherever your produce section is, that's the only place you should be headed, but that's a different conversation. So in this case, we're transported to a house. We're eating the same food that our parents ate, that their parents ate, and this is progression of whatever disease states those parents have that everyone starts to have, because we're all on that same train, which that domino effect.
Right.
So then we end up rotting, not aging, but rotting, and we go back to that same hospital to finish out our days. Now, is that bizarre? Does that sound like life to you? And so if we look at a fish, it's born in water and thrives. We're surviving barely. Okay. Very few of us thrive.
Right.
Okay. That fish thrives in water, disease-free, until it gets eaten by its predator. Okay. Which happens in the real world too. It's called business. So it thrives in water. Hopefully it has an amazing life and dies of natural causes where it was born.
Yeah.
But it didn't have cancer, fibromyalgia, ischemia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and you can put a label on those and call them diseases. But if you look at what's going on with the oxygen levels, their alkalinity, their inflammatory condition, their toxicity, their lack of nutrition, if you restored that, you can restore order. Okay. So we are a fish out of water. We got plucked out of our environment, and gosh darn it, let's try and make our own world. Let's just completely go against the grain and go against the universe. And let's just put these things in our ears. We'll eat everything synthetic. We'll carry these massive destructive wavelength devices, and we'll just be glued to them all day long. And we'll just eat whatever is thrown at us and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Wrong. Okay.
Yep.
Now, we can't change that with everybody. There's a lot of people, though, that are making that change, and that momentum is going very quickly.
Right.
So,
exactly.
With that said, we have what's called the Superhuman Protocol, and we keep it super simple. We just give you back your grounding and your earthing, which is equivalent to walking barefoot for 14 hours, but in 8 minutes time. Oxygen for 15 minutes, you exercise with oxygen, then you get exposed to red light and near infrared light. On the website, you can watch the short little teaser. It's the 3 secrets to health are under our nose. I won't play that video because of the bandwidth issues. Yep. But let's just dive right into it. In fact, do you have any questions before I move forward here?
No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
think that we can jump in and, I'll interject if I have any, but you're doing great. And I love that, the possibilities now are available here for this to happen so quickly, and science is backing it up, and it's showing, like you said, I mean, that I've done a lot of these protocols for quite a while, and seen some big changes, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, let's jump into PEMF and talk a little more about the magnetism and
Awesome.
electromagnetic
Awesome.
stuff.
By the way, I get a lot of people that ask me how old I am, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. And I just turned 51 2 days ago. Okay. So I do this stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's awesome.
There's no way not to, because these are our products. We actually, some of these products we actually helped evolve. We actually have a hand in their design and their development. So got to use it. And
Yep.
I prefer the Superhuman Protocol in nature, but you and I both know that that's not a reality. So here's the first stage to Superhuman, PEMF, also very well known as pulsed electromagnetic field. Most adopted technology by chiropractors, probably of any technology out there outside of maybe class 3B, class 4 lasers, which is something we can talk about later. But chiropractors will do this because when it was introduced many, many years ago on Dr. Oz, in fact, that's the device that was actually on Dr. Oz's show. The original, this is 25-year-old German technology, probably with more studies and evidence than any PMF device in history. They've got more patents on their technology than anybody else. And a patent simply means that they can prove that they're doing something unique that somebody else can't do. So
Yep.
if we have a PMF device that can do something that another PMF device can do, major benefit there. So this would be equivalent to walking around barefoot for 14 hours, 8 minutes twice a day. Okay, so your cells get charged up to negative 100 millivolts. Okay, and that's across the gradient of the cell. Around the actual outside of the cell, you're around 25 millivolts, negative 25 millivolts. That's a pH of 7.35. You're alkaline. That's it.
Perfect.
8 minutes, lay there, you're alkaline. Okay, that device has been proven to increase oxygen uptake between 30 and 900% oxygen uptake, because that's how impeded oxygen transport is in a lot of people. Okay, cell clumping, toxicity, poor blood flow. A cell should get 1 billion molecules of oxygen. Okay, there's 240 million hemoglobin proteins per red blood cell. And as such, you should be able to dock 4 molecules of oxygen to each protein. There's where we get that billion. So when you can get oxygen now into the cell, because you separated the cell, we have better ATP production, adenosine triphosphate, fancy way of saying energy.
Right.
Anyone that says I've got problems with energy, I have pain, my range of motion is terrible, not anymore. 8 minutes on this, you have restored your blood flow to that of a 10-year-old. Your cells will separate and uptake nutrients and oxygen and carry it to the 11 organ systems. Now those 11 organ systems can start repairing. They can start doing their job. Right now, they're all fighting and going, where's my oxygen? Where's my O2 transport? Where's my nutrition? Why is there no cell communication? Why am I inflamed? Because there's no perfusion of blood to the tissues. And we need to get that to happen. So we need to restore blood flow first and foremost, okay? This device has a patent on what's called ion transport. So getting sodium and potassium into the cell. That's a very important yin and yang. Should be a little bit more sodium and potassium in the cell and sodium outside the cell, but that pump action causes the zeta potential, the electrical potential of the cell to go up. Okay, puts you in a parasympathetic as opposed to sympathetic. So we're constantly in a sympathetic mode. The body is on fight or flight. One argument with your loved one can actually have a multi-day residual effect. Inflammatory effects, all sorts of neurotransmitter response hormones start flooding the body. One of them is adrenaline. And so these are inflammatory hormones that are causing the body to further become inflamed or cause pain, because as soon as you inflame something, or as soon as you stop blood flow, like I said, put a tourniquet on my arm, the rest of this arm starts to hurt. So as soon as you impede blood flow at a particular area, you start to create pain.
Right. Makes sense.
This device, of all PMF devices, blocks and clears the dirty EMF smog we're all worried about. So for example, this 5G stuff that we're using right here,
Yeah.
when you lay on that, you can actually take a tri-field meter, mine's downstairs, tri-field meter, and you can measure 0 millivolts of electricity, 0 on the mat. You won't get, I don't care what your RF frequency is measuring. I don't care what your voltage by meters, by meter squared is measuring, it'll zero it out. So this is one of their patents, is to clear your environment.
Okay.
Okay. So that the PMF frequencies that are coming through are actually effective and not competing with all those other things around you.
That's great.
No other PMF device does that. That's one of their other patents. And we go back to looking at, there's over 2,000 university level double-blind medical studies on PMF. It got its first FDA clearance in '79 for non-union bone fracture. Bones are piezoelectric. They respond to a very low level Gauss or magnetic field, and it'll cause what's called osteoclast or osteoblast remodeling. That's the architecture of a bone. You know, if you put a lot of pressure on the bone, it'll start to become stronger. Your osteoporosis, your T-score will improve. If you're putting stress on it, a lot of people don't work out, they don't put stress, and their bone matter begins to become frail. Osteoporosis, osteopenia. So PEMF therapy can actually trick the body into thinking that there's stress.
Yeah.
That magnetic field will tell the bone to grow. So you can have non-union bone fracture, which is where the bones don't touch, and we can get them to mend.
Interesting.
Okay? And 4 more FDA clearances came out since '79 on, so that's 5 FDA clearances on PMF technology in general, one of them being brain cancer and another being depression. Okay, so that's FDA clearance. Here's an example of somebody who has rouleau. All their cells, red blood cells, are clumped together. Looks like a bunch of coins stacked on top of each other. Here's during a 5-minute session, they began to separate. And then here's after just a couple hours after treatment, there are the cells basically repelling one another.
Wow, that's great.
And that means blood starts to flow normally again. It's like taking a hose, and you know the hose is under pressure, and you might have high blood pressure. Okay, but as soon as you squeeze the nozzle, the blood's going to start to flow again. And by getting on PMF, we're opening the nozzle and allowing all that blood to flow. We're not increasing blood pressure. We're just restoring the normal flow, and we're decreasing the arterial pressure. So blood pressure, high blood pressure, can actually, and I can't make a claim here, you can see the arterial pressure drop after you see blood flow improved. Okay. Yeah. So well now that you have done this, your window of oxygen uptake and absorption for not just for oxygen and nutrients is huge. So eating right after a PMF session is amazing. You're going to get more of your valuable nutrients absorbed and utilized, which means you could probably take fewer supplements because they're save money. If you're on drugs, I can't tell you to go off your drugs. Your doctor can, but you might be able to tell them, hey, listen, I've got something that's going to help my ibuprofen. Maybe I'm on 800 milligram prescription NSAID, and that's, you know, who wants to be on that? But you might be able to drop that down a little bit with the guidance of your doctor and say, I'm on PMF, and I should be able to get a better effect with half that dose.
Yeah,
and
that's
that'll apply. And if one of the contraindications is caffeine. Don't drink a lot of caffeine. Well, I do. I mean, I get my espresso and I get right on my PMF machine, and I'm just wired for the day. But I do that purposely, and I'm controlling that. I know what's going on. If I had a caffeine problem, and I can't handle caffeine, stay away from this. Stay away from caffeine while you're doing this. Okay. So I'm dialing things in because I know what's going on with my own body to a degree.
Right.
You know, we all think we know everything about the body. We don't know what we don't know.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. We know some things, and you know, it's unreal. What an amazing time that we're in right now to learn and be a part of what's being brought to the foreground here. It's just exciting because imagine where we're going to be in 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, just this last year is just like warp speed.
Yep.
So oxygen after PMF, you're already going to get a minimum of 30% uptake. So why not do exercise with oxygen therapy, which again,
Right.
most widely adopted by chiropractors. I've got oncologists all over the planet doing this. I mean, this stuff gets overnighted to oncologists, and they're working with their patients doing oxygen therapy because, read that out loud.
Yeah, the equivalent to 20 plus hours of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And I have to say, I mean, I'll just interject here. I mean, like I said, I've done these things. I love them. All three of them I love. However, this is my operational man of steel right here. Like, I love it. I love the oxygen. It's changed my life. So, I'm
That's
gonna
good
let
to
you
hear.
explain it, but it's awesome. It's absolutely amazing. I love it because the exercise we're telling people to do oxygen, and we're not even mentioning the fact that this is an opportunity to do exercise and get 2 to 3 times out of your exercise in the same time.
Oh yeah, gosh, we could go for days on this one, but I'm going to be very, very aware of our time here.
Yeah, thank you.
This started out with just those nasal cannulas going straight to this little oxygen generator here. That's how that started out way, way, way back when.
Yeah.
And German scientist, Dr. Manfred van Arden of the Van Arden Institute, he was the pupil of Otto Warburg, German physiologist who won 2 Nobel Prizes. And he wrote the book, Oxygen Multi-Step Therapy. What he discovered was that when we exercise while breathing just a little bit more purity, his studies were in the 40 to 50% purity range, not this 93. So
Right.
when people get all hung up, oh, I got to get 93, I got to get 100. No, you don't. You don't. Oxygen generators by default make about 92, 93%. That's what we're stuck with. It's much higher than 50. It works. So what you're doing here is you'll see this guy, he's on a bike. Here's a picture of the mask. I can blow this up, I believe. So you'll see this mask. In fact, I don't need to blow him up. I got a mask right here. So this is what it looks like, okay? And what you're doing is this hose is connected to that big bag. And that bag is filled with 93% oxygen. This is the oxygen generator. This will make oxygen for free for pretty much forever. Okay, eventually you'll have to do one little bit of maintenance on it, but it'll probably be 10 years before you do. So that fills this big bag up first. This bag will hold enough oxygen even for a top athlete to exercise for 15 minutes. And so you're breathing from the bag, okay? And you exhale CO2 from here. So you're never breathing back into the bag. Everyone gets that wrong. They go, oh, I mean, I'm constantly inhaling and exhaling into the bag. No, the bag is your source of inhalation, and you exhale into the room your CO2. So that's what a traditional mask looks like. So for 15 minutes, you're going to exercise. And during that 15-minute protocol, you don't need to be Ironman. You just need to do 2 to 4 interval sprints lasting around 30 seconds each, and just give it your best shot. Try to get over 100, 110 beats per minute. We're trying to get your partial pressure up. We want that oxygen to be forced. A lot of people will say, well, you can't get any more oxygen into the red blood cell. True. But what you can do is you can force that oxygen into plasma, into distal hypoxic tissues,
Right.
and get the
Exactly.
oxygen dissolved. And under pressure, when you get the heart rate up under pressure, you can force it to choked off areas that have tourniquets on them. And when that oxygen gets into the endothelial lining of the artery and can cross right over the artery membrane into interstitial fluid, we actually watch that arterial diameter go back to its normal size. So imagine your arteries going from, like this, and over time, they're starting to narrow, 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 narrow. It's like the plumbing in your house getting more and more narrow, and you got to go get Roto-Rooter, right? This is like Roto-Rooter in one 15-minute session.
Right.
Microvessels, the 71,000 miles, the 5 liters of blood,
Right.
all get brightened back up and get oxygen to tissues that have been choked and starved for years.
Right.
And this lasts months. A 15-minute session lasts for months. So keep in mind, bacteria and viruses, they're anaerobic. They don't do well You put a virus in a petri dish and you crank up the oxygen environment to 100% medical grade. Watch that virus go into apoptosis. It'll kill itself. It cannot possibly survive in high oxygen levels. It's not that easy. You can't, I mean, I'm not talking about wiping out COVID with oxygen therapy. If somebody pegs me for that, I want to make it really clear. That's not what's happening here. But these guys they're anaerobes. They do not like oxygen, and there is no study out there right now that shows that oxygen helps make a cancer cell or virus thrive. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
So we know that oxygen helps with ATP. We really want to push that and stress that. Energy, your sleep. I've watched people with insomnia. After this, they have much better restorative sleep and can possibly get out of beta brainwave state and get into maybe alpha, maybe theta, if they're lucky. So sleep is really important to restore. And this, I've watched and heard stories that you wouldn't believe about sleep. Cognitive function, your brain is the biggest hog of oxygen. You take a hit of this after 15 minutes and you'll feel like you can read 3 books. You feel like you can stay up all night long. In fact, the first time I did this, it felt like someone turned the light switch on that I didn't know was off. Yeah, I'm gonna say that again. It felt like someone turned on the light switch in my life that I didn't even know was off. I just wanted to go into my office and work. I had so much mental and physical energy, and it's called upon. Energy is called upon. Yeah. You don't just sit there and go, I have all this energy. I'm an action guy to begin with. I've got to-do lists 7 days a week. I work 7 days a week. I very rarely take time off because this isn't work. I love what I do. And this helps me do that 24/7. If I'm not sleeping, I'm working. Okay.
Yeah. I'll say the same thing, Jason. I mean, I know you know this, but for the listeners, that's what I noticed. The 2 big things that I noticed was the ATP production and the brain cognitive function. Like those were the 2 big things that I had struggled with for a long time. After I got well from 90% of the disease and issues that I was having, the lingering issue was that I could not think clearly. I would get really tired in the middle of the afternoon. And so when I started doing the oxygen, it made a huge difference in that. Within 2 weeks, it pretty much stopped, and it really hasn't come back. Thank God. It's been years now. I mean, I think you got me hooked on this at least 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and that's been a huge help. So that's been the biggest thing. So I'm gonna let you, if you have anything else you want to say there, and then we've got about 5 or 10 minutes left. I want to make sure we get into the third one here. Feeling good is addictive. I can tell you that right now. So you will get addicted. So if anyone wants to really look into the science behind it, check out Oxygen Multi-Step Therapy. I don't sell the book. It's a very expensive book online. It's a hardback. It's 400 pages of clinical documentation written by a scientist for scientists. This will just give you an example of the easy reading that you'll have on one of those pages. But that's where you can dig into the source. Yep. Okay, last but not least, we go into light, also known clinically as PBM or PBMT, photobiomodulation, photo meaning light, bio life. Whoa, looks like we spelled bio wrong. Fix that. Photobiomodulation therapy. So what we want to do is expose the body to light, and we're not exposing it to sunlight. This is red and near infrared. So some of what you see, all of what you see here is red, 635 nanometer, fancy way of saying that's the color of light. And then the rest is near infrared. There's 45,000 LED lights in here, and the majority of them are near. The near infrared at certain wavelengths are going really deep into the body. Red typically goes into the skin, hypodermis, etc. We can go a little bit farther than that depending on the power, what we call the irradiance, the frequency, etc. But to go really deep, musculoskeletal, and get rid of pain and stop the inflammation at the cellular level, and we'll get into that in a second, you've got to go deep with near infrared. 8-10 nanometers are a very important wavelength, in my opinion. If your light bed doesn't have, if you're looking at a bed that doesn't have 8-10, I would walk, because that's the deepest penetrating, and it's great for people that have dark skin, tattoos, and things like that. So this is the opposite of a sauna. It's cold laser. This is not going to warm you up.
Okay. In fact, it's absolutely cold. The only reason this gets warm inside is because there's 45,000 LEDs driven by these big panels in there, and those get hot. So saunas will heat you up, make you sweat. This is the exact opposite. Here you're absorbing light. What happens when a cell absorbs light? Essentially, in the cell are burglars at night robbing things. They're called free radicals. And when a cell absorbs that light, it actually lets go of that free radical called mitochondrial nitric oxide. It's docking on something called cytochrome C oxidase. That's an enzyme at the end of the electron transport chain where we make ATP. It's a fancy way of saying when we turn on the floodlights in the house, the burglars go running for the hills. Okay, burglars go running for the hills. They run into the artery wall, which is called the fence in the case of a house. That's great because when it runs into the artery wall, it helps relax the artery, helps improve blood flow. But now oxygen can come back in and sit on cytochrome C oxidase and make ATP again and optimize energy production. Has a massive cascading effect. Inflammation's dropped, oxidative stress is reduced. Imagine cutting open an apple and it turns brown.
Right.
Put lemon juice on it and it starts to slow that process. Think of light therapy as lemon juice for our cells. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So all you're doing really is shutting down that oxidative stress, that inflammatory conditioning, the aging of the cell, so that the cell at the very core lives another day, makes ATP optimally. Cells make up tissues, tissues make up you. Okay, actually tissues make up organs, organs make up you. So we're affecting you at the foundational level. So yeah,
Right.
your skin's going to look great. Teeth, hair, nails, everything starts to improve because you're fixing everything from the inside out. Okay. Light therapy has been very well researched. There's over 4,000 laboratory tests, 500 randomized controlled trials, over 167 systematic reviews. There's about 30 white papers coming out on a monthly basis. It's got clearances, FDA clearances for temporary relief of minor aches and pains, blood flow, etc. So top athletes, they can beat their current world record doing this protocol. They can train harder and longer. They'll
Right.
they'll accelerate their recovery. Delayed onset muscle soreness will drop. Okay.
Yep.
Then conversely, we've got somebody in a wheelchair. I won't mention a disease state, but they can't get up and walk around. They're bedridden. These are people that can start to do these two technologies, the light and the PMF, and get a jump start. And suddenly they're going to be able to go, hey, I can get on that bike and wear a mask and I can just pedal a couple times a week. And before you know it, they can actually get through a sprint protocol.
I love
So
it.
they can just do a couple of the two of the three until they can get to the third. So that is in essence the Superhuman Protocol, and all we're doing is introducing you to the three elements that help create life. And when you get them in the right order, in magnitude order, we can restore order.
Wow, that's fantastic, Jason. Thank you so much for sharing that. And as you all can see, the process of this is very well thought out. It's meticulously thought out of the way that it goes. So it prepares your body with the magnetism, with the PEMF. Then you get the oxygen there because your vascular system is ready to take that oxygen in, right? And then you go into the light, the oxygen's in your system, and you're pushing it in deep. Right. And so just a genius way to do this. I love that you created this protocol, Jason.
Thank you. Yeah. And to add to that, so yeah, when you do those two in that order, light is on steroids. I mean, you are literally giving, because oxygen's got to come back in when the free radical is pushed out. And we've got plenty of oxygen now in the plasma and the tissues. We've separated all the cells so that more cells can actually absorb, have more surface space for more photon absorption, more light absorption. So A plus B plus C equals F.
Love it. And if you guys look up at there at the top, it says DaVinciMedicalUSA.com and replace Superhuman 123 with Holistic. And I think Jason's got a little special 5% discount on some of the items in his store. So anything you want to do that, anything you want to take with you, look at that and put in the cart, you're more than welcome to. And Jason can answer questions. I can answer questions. You can email me at andy@holisticmadeeasy.com. But Jason, thank you so much for offering just a little special incentive there for our listeners to be able to check it out.
It's my honor. It was a pleasure. Thank you,
Awesome.
Andy. Looking forward to
Awesome.
doing this again on another subject.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So until next time, thank you all. This is the Online Natural Health Expo. I am Andy with Holistic Made Easy. We're so glad that you've decided to join us. Please go and check out all of our vendors that are in the virtual lobby, as well as the other speakers that have spoke on all kinds of different things you'll see in the pages to come. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Andy. Take care, buddy.
Thanks.